So here we are live again, Tuesday afternoon here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And today we're talking about trust. So, 7 signs of trust issues and how to begin healing. So, you may have read this week's blog, and I just want to share, a little bit more about trust. Because trust is one of those things that without it, your life can be pretty miserable. I know firsthand because I had some serious trust issues as a young adult, and well, maybe until about 5, 10 years ago, even, and some would say even still. But it's one of those things that you work on constantly. But because I've dealt with so many of my trust issues, I've been able to have some really amazing people in my life, and that's really important. People that you can trust. So, trust is one of those things that we all talk about, but do we really know when we struggle with trust? And some people, yes, you've identified that. You absolutely know, I have trust issues. But if you haven't identified it, you may be doing things repeatedly and not exactly knowing why. So, if you're experiencing trust issues in a relationship, intimate or friend or work relationship, you can't make yourself vulnerable. You don't want to be vulnerable to what is happening or to these people. So without that, you kind of just constantly are sabotaging your relationships, right? So overcoming trust is difficult, but not impossible. It absolutely can be done, but it takes work. So you've been hurt in the past, and either in childhood or even in adulthood, and your lack of trust is held in place by fear of being humiliated, betrayed, taken advantage of, or of being manipulated in some way. So one of the reasons it's hard to let go of trust is that we go into situations with preconceived notions that we will be let down or hurt yet again. So we're essentially setting ourselves up for failure because what we look for, we find, right? So trust issues inevitably turn into self-sabotage. When you don't trust, you don't connect with others. This builds a lack of self-confidence, which leads to missed opportunities, loneliness, and even social anxiety. These are the types of self-sabotage which then maintains your reasons for having your trust issues. So again, you're just perpetuating the problem by not trusting. And again, easier said than done, right? Overcoming trust is hard. Overcoming those trust issues. So it requires looking at things differently. So when you start to see them as self-sabotaging and not self-protective, you can start to work your way through your trust issues. The pain you experienced is real, and it's super important to validate that. At no time do you just be like, oh, I just got to get over this. That's not it at all. But you just need to allow yourself to feel your feelings and then move through and start to take a little bit more smaller and smaller risks as you go, right? So there are 7 signs that you have trust issues. You already decided how people will betray you before they even have a chance to. So this is really common, and goes back to that self-perpetuating. So if someone has shown you repeatedly that they're untrustworthy, yes, pay attention to that. But anticipating that breach of trust in someone you have no history of betrayal with will contaminate this relationship. And it's a common thing that we do with trust issues, right? We just already decided. Another interesting one is that you'll trust people that you shouldn't. So it's just another way of reconfirming that people can't be trusted, is that we will allow ourselves to trust people who are untrustworthy. And so paying attention to those sort of things so that we can stop it before it happens. You may find that your relationships are shallow. So even if you're a deep thinking and feeling person, you're not having deep connection with other people. And that's because you don't trust, and then they don't trust you. And it's just sort of a back and forth. Your lack of emotional commitment. So trust issues dictate that you live in a world of anticipated loss, and your relationship cannot feel solid or grounded when you're waiting for the inevitable. So you're always just waiting for that other shoe to drop. I lived like that for so many years, and of course made it all come true, right? So mistakes are seen as breaches of trust is another sign. So because people aren't perfect and they make mistakes, you know, when it happens, because it will, we just automatically go to they're untrustworthy. So if they can't talk to you right now, then maybe you feel like they're hiding something. When they don't see you come into a room, that they're ignoring you. If they're running late, that they don't really want to spend time with you. So those are the things that we sort of are preconceived ideas about the situation. We decide for them how they're feeling. And most of the time, that's not the case at all. So, but we just do it automatically. And you may feel lonely and isolated. So when you can't trust people enough to share your true self, no one can get to know your true self. So that can also then lead to feelings of despair and depression. So because of that lack of connection, it's hard to be socially adjusted without that trust, and you feel trapped in a world where you feel like you don't belong, right? So those are some of the signs of trust issues, and often we don't even realize that that's what it is, but that's our trust issues. But what we can do is start to make changes so that we can open ourselves up a little bit at a time. So some of those steps to start taking a few risks, a few, steps forward. Step one is really that, be willing to take the risk of getting hurt. And that's probably the hardest step of all, because that's the whole reason we shut down, right? Because it hurts. Find a person, step two is find a person who can work through this with you. So a therapist, a coach, someone who has a proven track record of being trustworthy. So you want to know that someone can be counted on. Even if you're paying them, you know that you can count on them, right? So that can be really helpful to start taking those little bit of risks and sharing a little bit more. So step three, start to learn about trust and what you need to do to extend it and how it is earned. So just reading up on it, questioning, different things like that to learn more about trust. Step four, take risks with your person. Open up a bit more, start to pay attention to when they have come through as trustworthy, so that you start to pay attention to when people are actually trustworthy, so that you can start to differentiate between untrustworthy and trustworthy. And then confront your beliefs and suspicions, your fears and feelings. Really delve into whether or not your trust has been broken or you perceived it to be. Did you act from a place of fear and hurt, or was it actually something that happened, right? Because quite often we just react and decide, and then that's it. So those are some steps that you can take to start working on your fear or your trust issues, that fear of trusting. So read the blog. I also have an exercise here for you, this week's creative exercise, and that's also in the blog. You can read about it. And then Thursday we'll be releasing the video for that, showing you that exercise. So I wish for you, I'm not seeing anyone chatting with me today, so I just don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. But definitely drop a line, say you listened, or just reach out and say hi. And we will let you know when the video is ready on Thursday. And for right now, have an amazingly creative day, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening in. Please remember to like, share, subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. You can find us at www.creativeyou.ca.